Welcome. Thanks for being here with us today. This is Mississippi College School of Law, and we're initiating the Oral Histories project. This is actually our first video ever in this series, and we're very delighted today to be with former Jackson School of Law alum, Mr. Andy Sumrall. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
Okay, John, thank you.
And so I was thinking we would just jump right into it. So the one thing that I found out about Mr. Sumrall that I had not known beforehand is that he was in the final, if I got this right, you were in the final class between when you were at Jackson School of Law before it transferred over to here on the compound of Mississippi College School of Law.
That's correct. It was in, I think, August of 75.
1975.
Yeah.
So what exactly was it that, how did you end up in law school in the first place?
When I got out of school, undergraduate school, which I also went to Mississippi College undergraduate, first tried selling cars and that didn't work. And, and then I had the opportunity to go to work for Mississippi Valley Title Insurance Company, abstracting, checking titles. And I enjoyed that, got into it and did that for a while and got interested in the law. And Rowan Taylor, who was a lawyer at Mississippi Valley Title and owner of Mississippi Valley Title, told me that if I was interested, he'd help me go to law school. So I enrolled in Jackson School of Law and haven't looked back since.
Are you from Mississippi originally?
I went all the way through law school and never left Hines County.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you married at the time when you went? What was the story?
I was married and had a little girl at the time I was in law school.
What was your little girl's name?
Shannon.
Shannon. So, and your wife's name?
At that time my wife's name was Brenda, but my present wife is Melvia Sumrall. She was a court administrator for Judge John Grant.
Wow. So you're married with a young daughter. You're working and doing title.
Working full time.
Wow. And what was it that attracted you to law in the beginning?
Well, just the checking titles and getting involved with the different things, the laws that involve title checking, and I just got interested in it.
Incredible.
Of course, I have an uncle, I have an uncle who was a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer. As a matter of fact, he was the first attorney for the State Tax Commission back in the 30s, J.H. Sumrall. And I had another grandfather who went to Jackson School of Law but never passed the bar. So I had a little interest in it, but when I got to Valley Title, I really got interested in the law.
So your family, you come from a tradition of lawyers,
Well,
a legal craft almost.
we have several lawyers. I got several cousins. I got a cousin down in Florida that's a lawyer, and a cousin here in Jackson, and another cousin out in Texas that's a lawyer. So there's several in the family.
Incredible. So okay, so you decide to go to law school, and you have the support from your company.
Right.
And so when you first came to Jackson School of Law, what was it like going to law school then?
Well, it was in a little two-room house. We had two classes, one in the back, one in the front, and the bathroom in between. It was over here on President Street. And basically you'd come to class and you'd get there just in time for class and be there for 3 hours and go home. There wasn't a whole lot of camaraderie because most people in law school at that time were working full-time. And so you came to class and went home. I mean, that's the way it was. Well, I have some lasting relationships that I got there, and I wouldn't trade anything in the world for it.
How large would a class be?
And this is just guessing because I don't really know for sure, but I would imagine somewhere between 30 and 35, maybe up to 40.
And it wouldn't be staggered, it would just be...
It'd be two classes per night.
Two classes.
One in the back room, one in the front room.
And where would you buy your books?
From them.
From them?
Yeah.
Would it be a bookstore, or did you...
No, you'd take a class and they'd say, this is the books you need, and if they'd have them, you'd buy them from them.
Incredible.
That was. Well, we had some of the best teachers in the world, because most of the ones who taught, they were practicing attorneys who were actively practicing law. We had like Ken Perry in contracts, who was an expert. We had Neville Patterson, who was a Supreme Court justice, Chief Supreme Court judge at the time. Had several other well-known lawyers that taught.
Do you remember your first law school class, or do you have any anecdotal memory from the time at Jackson School of Law?
Well, one of the first classes I had was contracts with Ken Perry. And of course, it was legendary the way he would do it. First thing he'd do is ask somebody about define meeting of the minds, and he'd let them go whatever definition they wanted, and he'd all of a sudden he'd say, "Oh," and he'd reach up and say, pick you up and say, "Your minds meet?" You know, that's the way he got it started. That's the first thing I think that everybody remembers from Old Jackson School of Law. But they were some excellent teachers. Ken Hodge, who was Cliff Hodge, who was up at Ole Miss teaching now, taught there too. They just had a lot of good lawyers that taught.
Mm.
When we got out of school, we knew what to do in the courtroom and how to get there, because that's just the way they taught.
So do you remember what, was there any course that you didn't take there that now you see in the classrooms that taught that you would have liked to take, or you think it's strange that's now in?
No, I think it's strange that I didn't take it, but legal bibliography was not a required course, and I never took that, so I've never been real strong in research, but that's just my forte. So.
All right. So, okay, so that was Jackson's School of Law.
Right.
And then what was it like when you got out? So you graduate with your class, and you've been taught by practitioners in a very like in the trenches sort of environment, with a lot of folks probably from the area.
Yeah.
What was it like actually practicing law then in Jackson?
Well, I felt we had an advantage on some other places because of the practicing lawyers that were teaching us. We knew what to do when we got in the courtroom. You know, and it was not just theory that was taught, it was practicality. And the other thing that helped me was working for Mississippi Valley Title. I was in the Brandon office at that time, and every time I'd have free time, I'd go upstairs to watch the court, whatever went on in court. And there was a judge over there by the name of Rufus Broom, who one day looked up and said, "Who are you?" And I told him who I was, that I was in law school, and he says, I said, "Boy, don't you sit out there." I said, "You come up here and sit behind the bar."
Mm.
And he said, "If you ever have a question, just ask me." I said, "Yes, sir, I will." And I did. And I guarantee you I learned a lot of law from that man. He taught me a lot of stuff, things that would happen in a courtroom that we talked about in law school, but I didn't understand. He could explain it then because I'd seen it in actuality, and it was really advantageous for me.
So it really was, when they say you learn to think like a lawyer, that really was happening.
Yes, it was.
Did you find that was more once you had graduated, or?
I think it started before that because of the people we were taught by.
Right, because you had the practitioners.
And they taught us things. Matter of fact, shortly after I graduated and passed the bar, for some reason we weren't going to, I left Mississippi Valley Title. And at the time I had enough money in the bank saved up to last me 3 months. If I didn't make a nickel, well, I never touched the money. I used it to pay taxes at the end of the year. I walked in there and then it just was able to start practicing law, and had a real good day. The first day I had 3 new clients walk in the very first day open of law practice, and it's been rolling ever since.
Where was your law practice?
Started out in Pearl, Mississippi. Ed Rayner and I, who had also gone to Jackson Law School, was practicing there, and he said, "Well, come on in, I'll give you some office space and not charge any rent." And so I just walked in there and started. He and I formed a partnership shortly after that, and it lasted about 2.5 years, and then since then I've been basically on my own.
Did you have furniture in your office in the beginning?
I did not. My mother and father gave me a desk when I graduated from law school as my graduation gift, and I still use that desk today.
Wow. That's something.
Yep.
That's something. So after the first few years of practice, you sort of started the adventure of practicing on your own.
I did. Well, I started on my own to begin with, and Ed and I formed a partnership, and that lasted a couple of years, and then I went back out on my own. At first I did mostly loan closings and title work and stuff like that, and then I got where I was doing divorces, and where I didn't like doing that anymore, and then got into doing basically criminal law, and now it's to the point I don't do anything but criminal law.
How did you discover the passion for criminal law?
Courtroom. I like getting in a courtroom, and if you do criminal practice like I do, you're in the courtroom all the time. And that's what I like to do. I like to be in the courtroom. I like trying cases. I like, it's not a competition, but it's almost like a competition. It's almost like you're competing. Of course, I played football all the way through college, and so it's just something I just enjoy doing.
What position were you in football?
You'll find it hard to believe, but I was a quarterback.
You were the quarterback?
Yeah, matter of fact, you go out to MC and check, I'm in the Hall of Fame out there.
Wow. What years did you play?
I played 68 through 71.
And now you're in the courtroom almost with the same position.
Yeah.
You're quarterbacking. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So do you remember what really drew you, so you loved the courtroom, you come back from, I mean, you're a competitor, you're a quarterback, you liked the competition, you went into the courtroom experience that worked for you. What was it specifically about criminal law do you remember how you got into that as opposed to family law?
Well, I just got tired of family law.
Right.
I just got tired of people arguing over salt and pepper shakers and over nothing. I think the worst one was when I had everything settled except they got to arguing about the catfish in the freezer, and I said, "That's it. I'm through with this stuff." And it just got where getting into criminal law. The more I got into criminal law, the more I was in the courtroom. The more I was in the courtroom, the better I liked it. So it just kind of built up.
And no more catfish.
No more catfish. Not like that anyway.
That's fantastic. So how has law, so the practice back then, how has law changed over the years to you? Like, what do you see as the large differences?
Well, back then, of course, there was a lot less people, a lot less lawyers. And you could just about, if somebody told you something, you could bank on it. That's gone. That's not, you can't do that anymore. We've lost the professionalism in the law practice. Too many people have gotten it to be a business. And back then, if a lawyer told you something, you could bank on it. Now you have to get it in writing before you can bank on it. And that's a sad situation, but that's where we are.
What do you see as the
They can edit that out, I guess.
something that I didn't account for? Take the phone off the hook. This is it. What do you see as when you talk about the transition being from a sense of professionalism or the profession to an idea of business, and part of that's about your word, what does that, so if we were going to explore that more a little bit, like, what does it mean to be part of a profession as opposed to being part of a business?
Well, in a profession, to me, your word is your bond. And if you say something, you live by it. And I think that's the reputation I've got with, I go all over the state. And I think just about every DA that I know out there and everybody that I talk to knows that if I say something, I'm not just bullying them. I got some reason for saying it. I don't file frivolous motions. I don't do wasted things. Why? You trying to just make yourself look good? No, that's not. Your purpose is to represent your client to the best of the ability and get them the best deal they can get, whatever that may be. But you owe that duty to your client. And I don't need to flash or I'm going to file 43 motions in this case. Why? If they're not basic, if there's not a basics for them, why file them? That's my philosophy.
What do you think? Was it about that philosophy that slowly started to fall apart? Why do you think that is?
I wish I could explain that. I don't know. I just think that people have gotten to the point that they're more interested in their bottom line than they are in the outcome for their clients. And I don't mean that per se, because they're still doing that, but I think they're more interested in doing everything they can to generate a dollar for their business. I've used to see divorces that people may have $30,000 or $40,000 worth of assets and end up paying $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for attorney's fees for trying to divorce them. Why? I mean, that's not right. But that's my philosophy.
So I was going to ask you about your hopes and anxieties towards the future, and I guess that would be a major anxiety. If you were looking to young lawyers today and speaking to them, the next generation that are coming from Mississippi College School of Law or coming into the state or going out into the nation, what would be your hope for them or what you could tell them?
Well, the first thing I want them to do is to realize that this is still a profession, and we should be held at the highest standards possible, and that it's not a business, but you have a duty to the public and to your clients of seeking justice. Sometimes I think we lose sight of that, and I wish that would be the foremost thing that I would wish that new lawyers would consider. And the other thing that I would want new lawyers to remember is to stand behind your word. If you're going to do something, do it. If you're not going to do it, say you're not going to do it, but just stand by your word.
I was going to ask another question, but I mean, that sounds like a good way to close. Stand by your word. Mr. Sumrall, thank you very much. Andy,
My pleasure, John.
this has really been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.